Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Conspiracy Monday. This is America's Third Party, entertaining your wildest concerns, your deepest, most troubling thoughts about the future of the planet, of America, where we're headed. And you're asking, why is there a crop circle behind my head right now? Well, it's because we don't really understand crop circles. We don't even know why they exist. And we are also our scientists are beginning to believe that there was water on Mars. So all these things are changing the way we look at the universe. Now, you thought you were living in a world that was defined by horizontal, vertical lines, right? Well, welcome to the diagonal. Welcome to the circle. Welcome to the entire thought process that we may be part of a bigger plan. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist per se. I'm a conspiracy fact person. I like to look at facts and nail down what are facts, and I'm pretty good at determining that facts do exist. Facts are that many unidentified flying objects have actually come into our atmosphere. Lots of people throughout the history of our nation and around the world have witnessed UFOs. I myself have witnessed a UFO or multiple UFOs in my lifetime. I actually, in 1967, saw about 50 discs in the sky that were flying in unison, and they weren't birds. They actually moved rapidly across the sky, and this was in Orange County, California in about June or July of 67. And I went down to tell some family members to look back, and they were gone. Well, it turns out 200 people have listed that as one of the major occurrences in America that occurred back in 67 at that time period in Orange County, California. They registered it with the MUFON Society. MUFON does a lot of work to establish what UFOs are. So there is ample evidence that something's not right. There's something bizarre. So if there is any type of a reveal to come in our lifetime, I would like to be the president that does that. I will willingly go through the full disclosure of aliens if indeed they do exist. I know a lot of you are concerned that maybe they do exist, that Roswell really did happen. If I find that out and it is not a major concern for international and national security, I will tell you, okay? That's something I will do. This is what I believe I meant to do as well. If indeed that day comes, I will be that person to tell the world that they do exist. If they don't exist, I'll say, hey, yeah, masterful job done by amazing spacecraft developed at Area 51 under the US space program. I mean, you never know. Our spacecrafts could possibly do these things. So, I mean, maybe they're just pushing these vectors out there, but this gets even weirder. There's a lot of things that just don't add up. And when you look at the possibilities of a potential encounter with alien beings, you begin to wonder, what are these pictures? You know, what are these pictures? Like this picture right here. Take a look at that. This looks like Area 51, doesn't it? Somebody sent this to us last week. Necessary or strange? Good question, Dave. Well, this is a possible Photoshop doctored copy, or is it the original? Is it a spacecraft that they're holding in a bunker in Area 51? These are questions that really resonate among a lot of conspiracy theorists, and I got to tell you, folks, you don't have to be self-conscious about wondering about things. Don't label yourself as a conspiracy theorist because you don't want to be seen by your friends as a weirdo. This is Janet Airlines. They fly in and out of McCarran Air Force Base, or the airport there in Las Vegas. Every day they make daily flights to Area 51. They carry like 300 people every day, in and out. These people are under strict orders not to talk about what they are doing there. But the possibility remains that maybe something is going on that we don't know about. Things that may very well be reverse engineering of technology. I mean, how is it we're progressing so rapidly? We've got drones the size of little teeny insects. I mean, it's almost like the technology that we're seeing in our world today is growing so quickly, and it's so out of control that it's important for us to ask these questions. Are they real? Are they tangible? Well, I can't give you the answers to those. I can raise questions, though, and I can talk about the possibility that there is possible reverse engineering going on with potential spacecraft. But the issue of alien visitations on the planet really is pale in comparison to the things that have happened in our country that are sheer cover-ups. Yeah. So we talk about those on our night here, Conspiracy Monday, like this right here. This is the takedown of bin Laden in Abbottabad. This is the helicopter that crashed outside of Abbottabad. How is it anyone survived this? Seriously. And there was only one reported sound, one blast. So if the government in the State Department is saying there was a secondary explosion, how come no one heard it? And if this really did go down like this, I can almost guarantee the people on that plane, on that helicopter, that stealth helicopter, died. Okay, that's one of the questions that pops up on Conspiracy Monday. The bin Laden attack. Was it real? Is it a cover-up? All of these things really add to the question mark, what's really happening? HAARP. Let's talk about HAARP. HAARP is one of those things that no one knows what it does. They haven't reported information from HAARP for over 25 years. I understand that it's in Alaska. It's called HAARP because of the High Active Frequency Auroral Research Program. But no one really knows what it is. Well, what it is, essentially, is Tesla, Nikola Tesla's technology, the great inventor that brought us incredible battery systems, electrical systems. This great inventor actually developed secrets to sending electricity through the ionosphere and capturing electricity in the ionosphere. Now, if this happened in Nikola Tesla's time, and fast forward over 100 years to this day and age, surely they've got the ability to do some strange things with the atmosphere. Well, that raises other questions. If they could control the atmosphere, they could theoretically control hurricanes. Case in point, Hurricane Sandy. Did HAARP create Hurricane Sandy? That's a question that pops up. Hurricane Sandy, by the way, killed over 100 people. You're laughing? Well, the reality is, it's not funny. 100 people died with Hurricane Sandy, and it's the only hurricane in history, in that area in the Atlantic Ocean, that made a left turn. Now, we've looked at spaghetti patterns of hurricanes, and I've analyzed them. I've even done a show about them on YouTube. But the reality is, we still don't know how that hurricane happened to land and cause so much devastation right before the election. And why in the world did Chris Christie endorse Obama? Why did Michael Bloomberg endorse Obama right at that pivotal time so that Obama gets reelected? So it leads to one thing after another. You go to question mark after question mark, and that's what conspiracy theory and conspiracy fact checking is all about. Now, there's some things that I want to bring up that I think you need to know about. This is a picture of, behind me, the Queen of England. She's somewhere down here in the back behind me. This is the 9/11 Order of the Garter. Believe it or not, this is an organization in England of which Prince William has joined recently. And I want to congratulate Kate and William, by the way, on the new baby that they just had, the new life in their family. Congratulations. But beyond that, we have to ask ourselves the big question, with these people and all this money behind me, do they have the power to make incredible things happen? Is it a coincidence that their name is 9/11, the Order of the Garter, and the World Trade Center attack occurred on 9/11? Well, for many questions that arise about the World Trade Center attack, and many people that are wondering about the reasons we were attacked in 2001, we can't really dedicate this time period to that question. And I can't connect the dots between that event and these people, 9/11 Order of the Garter. I cannot do it. I have absolutely zero proof of anything. I can raise questions about whether 9/11 was an inside job. I can talk about that. But in no way can I possibly connect the dots between this group and anything suspicious or spurious. You see, these people are basically untouchable. You have trouble sleeping in bed? I'm sorry for you. All right, well, maybe you might want to exercise, take a walk. That helps you with sleeping. If you walk for a good mile and a half every day, I guarantee you'll sleep better. I'm sorry, I'm off topic, but that's something that we do every night. Now, I'm going to bring up some information about this possible connection between elitists and our national government in America and the UN. Now, that's something I really wanted to get to tonight because I haven't really shown anyone this connection, and I know a lot of you are waiting for it. The connection is very strange. Many people believe that this group behind me are Masons. They're Masons and Freemasons, and many of these people are part of an echelon, the very same echelon that's talked about when you hear people discuss the Illuminati. Well, the Masons apparently were so powerful when they created our currency and our government in Washington that they embedded the pyramid on the dollar bill. And it happens to be the sign in their historic ledgers of their belief system. It's paganistic in origin, and the Masons believe in these higher powers, which are completely different than what most of us think are higher powers. And someone in the chat room earlier said that the Illuminati believe that Lucifer is their god. And that's something that is also verifiable, that these people believe that Lucifer is their god. Now that's something very, very weird. And I actually went on a fact-finding venture looking for information. And I ran into some people that told me some information that perhaps connects the UN to the secret societies. And I'm going to show that to you right now before your very eyes so we can talk about this. Yeah. Lucifer, yeah, like in Satan. Yeah, that guy. You know, I was very, very suspicious that this guy was making all this stuff up. And I said, no way could anyone who believes in Lucifer be connected to the UN. And you're going, yeah, right, sure. And you're going, sure, yeah, right, right, Well, yeah, can you list a few conspiracies offhand? Yeah, Smoke. Let's do a short list, shall we? JFK assassination, fluoride contamination in our water system. Some people believe it's lowering our IQ, so try to avoid fluoride in your water. Third conspiracy, like I said, Abbottabad, the cover-up, Obama basically taking out Bin Laden right after there was questions about his birth certificate. Barack Obama's birth certificate, another conspiracy theory that is turning into conspiracy fact that it was forged. I might tell you that too. I mean, there's so many things turning up in conspiracy land that we can't even talk about them all on one show. But the good thing is the show goes on. We are always able to do a show because no one has any resolution here except for a little bit of information. I can show you a doctor right now who will tell you flat out, and he was the former director of the EPA, that fluoride is very dangerous and can cause irreparable damage to your brain. And he actually testified 12 years ago in front of the subcommittee hearing on fluoride. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. Sometimes it's hard to find access videos per se. Yeah, here it is. Let me play a little bit for you.
Dr. Herzig.
Good morning, Chairman Smith and Chairman Crapo and fellow staff workers. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today to present the views of the union on the issue of fluoridation of public water supplies. Our union represents the staff, scientists, lawyers, and others who analyze hazard, exposure, and economic data and advise management how to use them in public health protection. I'm not here today to speak for EPA, but rather the union, founded 17 years ago to protect EPA workers from unethical pressure by EPA managers. It was on that basis in 1985 that we first got involved in this issue. In 1997, we voted to oppose fluoridation, and our opposition has grown stronger as more...
Okay, as you can see, he voted to oppose fluoridation. This is the director of the EPA around 12 years ago, okay? Nothing has been done about this. So is it in the best interests of the elitists sitting behind me to fluoridate the entire population, to dumb us down, if you will? You think it might be in their interest to keep us like semi-conscious zombies going, You think maybe that might be helpful? Okay, well, if you don't think poisoning the entire population and lowering their IQ is beneficial to the people behind me, then you're probably not going to be interested in hearing about the Lucifer connection to the UN. All right, well, I'm going to go on to that right now because I'm not stopping at anything tonight. We're going to go on and talk about everything in detail because I'm not afraid of anything at this point. Our country is slipping into an economic chasm. We are reaching a point where jobs just aren't happening. Obama has lied long enough and the American people are tired of it. Okay, somebody's asking me to bring it up. Let's bring it up. This is the Lucis Trust. It's a nonprofit service organization incorporated in the United States in 1922 by Alice Bailey and her husband, Foster Bailey. to act as a fiduciary trust for the publishing of 24 books of esoteric philosophy, blah, blah, blah. When you read down a little bit, you'll see that the World Goodwill Group, founded in 1932, has been recognized by the United Nations as a non-governmental organization and is represented during regular briefing sessions for the NGOs at the United Nations. The Lucis Trust has consultative status, roster level, with the United Nations Economic and Social Council. All right, now you're saying Lucis Trust, why is that? There's no connection to Lucifer. You're thinking, right? Well, yeah, we'll get to Wall Street in a second. Their headquarters are on Wall Street. That's correct, Radical Notion. Thank you. Let's take a look at, from their site, the Lucis Trust site, directly. They talk about their origins. Now check this out. This is really interesting. There are comments to the World Wide Web claiming that the Lucis Trust was once called a Lucifer Trust. Such was never the case. However, for a brief period of 2 or 3 years in the early 1920s, when Alice and Foster Bailey were beginning to publish the books published under their name, they named their fledgling publishing company the Lucifer Publishing Company. Now, this gets to the underbelly of what's going on in the mindset of the people here that work at the Lucis Trust. They believe the name was changed to Lucis Publishing Company and has remained so ever since. Both Lucifer and Lucis come from the same root. Lucis being the Latin generative case meaning of light. You know, go on and on. I'm just telling you, this is very suspicious, okay? It's very suspicious. I'm not convinced that in any way are we safe with people working at the UN, controlling global policy, influencing our policies in America, who worship Lucifer. Are you with me? Did you know this? I was shocked when I found this out. Meow TV says, what's the point of lowering the IQ of the Americanized under fluoride? They do a good job by themselves crossbreeding KFC, Walmart. Meow TV, the theory is that by fluoridating all the municipal water supply in America, we've essentially created symptoms like ADHD and autism in kids. We've lowered the general IQ of the population, and that's just one of the many tools that the elitists are using to dumb us down. Now, what do they gain by dumbing us down? They gain total control and power over the world's destiny. They turn our world, America, what we know in America, to be their police agent, their dumb cop, if you will, that goes out and does all their muscle work against countries that don't go along with them. Now, there's ample evidence to back this up. Even Libya recently, when they took down Muammar Gaddafi, there's ample evidence that his gold supply was what they were after. His oil supply was what they were after. So what did they do? Our government, through NATO, and we occupy over 75% of NATO forces, the US does, our government essentially funded Al-Qaeda's operation in Libya. The current president of Libya is former Al-Qaeda. CBS News reported it. All right. I'm doing a recording because it's important to me, Bulbous. Thank you for coming in, though. David, have you seen the parody like RFID commercials on YouTube? Haven't. But there's something to worry about RFID chipping. Do not get chipped, folks. All right, so these subjects that we're broaching on right now are things you won't even hear about in the mainstream media. People on television can't talk about this because they know their jobs will be click, they won't get a paycheck. Seriously. So it's in the interests of the elitists to control everything we do. That's why they created the Republicans and Democrats. That's right. The two parties were essentially created just to keep us apart, separated. And when we watch the media and we watch Fox News, we know that they're predominantly Republican. When we watch CNN, we know they're predominantly Democrat. I am, as a former Democrat of 30 years, I have friends who are Republicans, and I'm willing to talk to those people, and I'm willing to bridge the gap. And I believe that I'm, like many other people in America, a centrist who's willing to talk about issues that are fiscally conservative, yet socially liberal. I'm willing to do that. Yet this party that we're still trying to create is very slow in forming because we are literally battling through layers of stupidity and layers of superstitious thinking, if you will. Most people who believe that their Republican Party or the Democratic Party is really important actually believe that a third party will split the vote and will make everything meaningless. Well, they've been leading you to believe that splitting the vote is bad. It might as well be bad for your health in the minds of the Democrats, Republicans. They would like to think that splitting the vote is the worst thing you could possibly do. But in fact, it's the only thing we can do to actually separate from the powerful control mechanism that the elitists use. You see, the very same elitists that power up the Democrats, Republicans, they're making funding they're going to the same $50,000 plate dinners. Some of the same people go to both the $50,000 plate dinners for the Republicans and the $50,000 plate dinners for the Democrats. And they shift gears every year. They know that by basically cornering both sides of the political spectrum, not only have they created the illusion of democracy and freedom, but they've actually controlled the dialogue so that a guy like me can't even get into the mainstream media. Now, we've knocked on the mainstream media's door numerous times. We've sent press releases out, and to no avail. Sometimes I've made phone calls to radio stations that are going to take my call, and then they shut me down because they get orders from above, do not talk to this guy. This is really happening. So their goal is essentially to splinter our entire nation into two parties. So when you go to the dinner table and talk to your mom and dad about third parties, you're coming to the dinner table with a lot of punch at this point. Number one, the two parties have failed to provide jobs, to fix the business problem in America, to help our industries. They've failed. They failed at the border, preventing illegals from coming in, and we find now that illegals are coming in under this new 1,200-page bill they're trying to pass. They want to bring more illegals in because that'll weaken our country. That'll make us less capable of stopping the powerful elitists that are using America as their dumb cop, so to speak. You see what I'm saying? Okay. That being said, when you go to the dinner table, I want you to mention too that America's third party supports legalization. And legalization is now supported by over 57% of the population. In some states, they're moving fully toward legalization, and there's no reason why a president wouldn't just repeal marijuana from the list of controlled substances, making it legal. I will do that. We have other reasons to pursue a third party too, and perhaps the most important reason is to fix the problem in our economy. Because the powerful moneyed interests, the people in the Republican and Democratic Party, they don't want to do the work of their constituents. They want to do the work of Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Dow Chemical or Monsanto. They're not going to help clean up your environment. They're not going to build industry in America. They're going to outsource to other nations. They're going to help corporations. They're not going to help American jobs. They're going to help corporations. And that's something that we're not about. We're not about globalization. We're about helping people in America. We talk about regionalization and developing profit centers for people. Even marijuana legalization will develop a tremendous amount of commerce within our country, and we can even export products like hempoline. You name it. The whole thing is going to go completely up in terms of economic potential when we legalize marijuana. So that being the case, we've got Sarah here. She's coming in the final minutes of our recording. Thank you.
And I just want to say, the thing is, I am someone that doesn't do marijuana. I don't smoke it.
You've never smoked it, right? Yeah.
But at the same time, I completely believe in legalization because I believe that whatever people want to do to their own body is up to them. And
Right.
I also think that three things. One, it will help with our border issues, especially with the drug cartels, and help Mexico actually fight their drug cartels. Two, it will help preserve our actual national forests because right now they're going in and they're taking in all these pesticides, chopping down old growth in order to create
Oh, yeah.
these marijuana fields and they do it in our national and state parks.
Yeah, drug cartels.
Because they're not allowed to do it in their own homes.
And that raises the issue, why are we allowing illegals to come into our country and grow marijuana? I mean, it seems like our government's allowing the drug cartels to continue to develop their funding streams to get more weapons, to come into our country and terrorize us. Apparently this thing outside our nation is being created and we're allowing it. We're allowing the drug cartels. 75% of our revenue come from marijuana sales. And if we legalized marijuana in America, the revenue to Mexico and other countries would be diminished greatly. And that would lower their ability to buy guns and weapons to use against us. So this is really important. Now,
and then I was going to say the
Sure.
third issue is that it could help with our tax base.
the tax base will, 25% of any sales would go to a tax that would help states like California, who are dealing with major crisis. Now, I would be remiss in talking about conspiracies unless I talked about the Federal Reserve. And I'm going to wrap up a little bit of this show with the discussion of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, created in 1913 under the Federal Reserve Act, may very well be an illegal organization, and they definitely do not work in our government. They are a quasi-governmental agency at best. They work outside of our government, they're privately owned, and they are essentially a central bank. Now, as far back as 1910, the group of bankers that control the world's monetary supply met at Jekyll Island, and they formulated the Federal Reserve Act and then laid it on the table of Woodrow Wilson to sign and Congress to sign. And there's evidence that not everybody signed it. It may very well have passed illegally. Nevertheless, we've got a problem. They continue to spend money and give it to big banks and to Wall Street. The very same people that are right near the Lucis Trust in Wall Street are getting huge amounts of money from Ben Bernanke. That money, you know where it's coming from? It's coming from the value of money in your pocket. Your dollar is becoming worth less and less. And the fact is, the more they print, the more watered down our money becomes. That's a fact. The Federal Reserve has a fractional reserve banking system that they use, where they deposit $1 and then give away 9 out of magically out of thin air. Similarly, they can take 10,000 and turn it into 1 million magically. It's called printing money, and they just have to add a 0 digitally to make this happen. Well, in 1913, Woodrow Wilson, right before he died, in fact, later, toward the end of his life, he said that it was the worst thing that he ever did was to sign that Federal Reserve Act into law in 1913. The worst thing he ever did. So when our president, Woodrow Wilson, said it was the worst thing he ever did, and we aren't listening, we as Americans have to realize that the two parties are going to support the Federal Reserve. And it's surprising to me that Ron Paul didn't leave the Republican Party in the last election. It shocks me that he didn't leave. He had every opportunity to actually run as a third-party candidate, and
exactly.
he didn't do it.
All he had to do is say, hey, go ahead and support me on Americans Elect. It doesn't hurt. And that could have gotten him ballot access in all 50 states.
Yeah, it could have. Highbury believes that Ron Paul is part of the system.
I agree with you.
Now, this is possibly something we refer to as COINTELPRO. When people are put in the system to make it seem like something's being done, to create a serious concern for something without actually doing anything, and then neutralizing that person. Many people argue that the reason why Alex Jones doesn't support political events or political parties is because he's part of that COINTELPRO, the very thing he talks about. Okay, so silver is bottoming out around $18. Everybody who invested in silver and gold thinking that they could be like Ron Paul and develop their own hedge against inflation are losing. That's because the entire silver and gold market, and especially the paper silver and gold market, is manipulated. COMEX and the New York Mercantile Exchange is essentially run and operated by big, powerful concerns that connect directly to the people that profit. Morgan Stanley just announced 43% profit in the second quarter, the largest ever for a bank in recent history. 43% increases. That's because they're profiting. You know, when people cash their food stamps, Morgan Stanley makes a commission. Social Security, JP Morgan is going to be making commission on every Social Security check issued. They are at the helm of our entire government, and they're controlling it, and they're siphoning off of it. And you wonder why we have a national debt. You wonder why our country isn't producing jobs for Americans. You wonder why we aren't getting separated somehow from the Middle East oil, and why we aren't developing our own oil reserves, which are huge in America. They're finding huge reserves in North Dakota, in the Balkan fields. Why aren't we moving faster to develop our own base for energy? Well, the fact is they don't want us to be independent from them. They want us to be tied to their world markets, their World Bank, and their IMF, and that is where the Federal Reserve comes in. They are connected at the hip to the IMF and the World Bank. And in many cases, in recent years, they are taking full control. The Federal Reserve is essentially, they're going to be parking the control of the entire monetary system around the world in their backyard. The New York Stock Exchange is now taking over for the Libor Scandal Group. The Libor, you heard of the Libor Scandal. Well, if you haven't, look it up. LIBOR. there was a scandal, and now the New York Stock Exchange is going to be handling the interest rates on all the money in the world. Now, if this doesn't get any better for the Federal Reserve, I don't know what does. Literally, it's going to be in their backyard. The entire international monetary system will be controlled by the New York Stock Exchange. Seriously. And I want to reiterate, the New York Stock Exchange was just purchased in November of last year by ICE, a foreign concern that's only been in existence for about 7 years. So what's going on? These people who stepped into the shoes of the New York Stock Exchange, because believe me, if I was relying on the New York Stock Exchange and the old network that was there to control the international interest rates, I'd be okay with that. But these people just stepped into the shoes and are owning this and are now controlling that element that will rig interest rates around the world, which could lead to trillions of dollars passing into the hands of secret parties. Now, the Libor scandal gave billions of dollars in commissions out all over the world to certain banks. That those banks are not even being punished in criminal court. Only civil cases are evolving where people have penalties of 1.6 billion, like HSBC face. I'm telling you things that you don't need to probably know. What I do want you to know, however, is that we do discuss all these issues on our Conspiracy Monday show, and we will go into depth every single night if you have questions about these issues, especially about the Federal Reserve. As far as aliens are concerned, I really don't talk about that except on Mondays. Go ahead.
Okay, we do have another question, which is coming from Jasmine. What do you think is the resolution for Syria's current crisis with the president?
Okay.
I'll let you get that.
I'll get that in a second. Hang on.
Okay, very good. I think the thing is that is, as far as Syria goes, that in order to come to a better a resolution faster, one thing that we need to make sure that we don't need to send any more arms to any forces in Syria, whether it be Assad or the rebel troops.
I agree. In fact, what it seems to me to be, they're playing right into the same playbook they used for Libya. And they think that Syria is like Libya. Libya had probably 13 jets. Syria has over 300 with helicopter forces. We aren't playing with people that are just, naturally give up their territory and run away and hide. We are playing a major game right now, our country is, by supporting rebel troops that are taking on the Syrian forces under President Bashar al-Assad. So we've got to ask ourselves, do we want to get involved in another war? And I've even said, as your president, I will not be adding more ground troops to the Middle East. We will be pulling out, subtracting as we see fit, to still maintain the advantage and superiority using air power alone and automating our presence in certain areas. I'm not going to send young men off to die in foreign wars. I want you to know that. And I also want you to know that this is another rallying point behind a third party. Ending wars, bringing our troops home to defend our borders, and to resolve our industrial crisis that we're having right now. Industry after industry is collapsing in America. Companies like GM are now becoming mostly owned by GM Shanghai. Chinese companies are owning General Motors. Seriously. Our nation is really not seeing major change from the two parties. And this is why I believe that this message of a third party is going to resonate well into the future, and it's going to grow. So what I want all of you to do is talk about to everybody you can, friends and family, about a third party. And I know that many of you are not able to contribute and make a donation on our main site, americasthirdparty.com, right now because you're facing a fiscal crisis of your own. I know that too well. I'm one of you. I live as every average American does, and I try to find value whenever I can. And I know that that's how we're going to get through this. We're going to have to find value in areas that we never even thought we had value. We've got to get our resources back. We've got to maintain control over our resources. And right now, our government is losing its most important resource, and that's the people of this country. It's outsourcing everything. It's crazy. As Sarah was mentioning the other day, that our ports of entry, even our naval and air force bases, are being run by third-party contractors. We're letting our country get fleeced left and right. Our nation's budget is being picked apart by the greediest of all corporations, and they continue to do it. And they laugh at parties when they go gather at parties every year. They laugh. It's a joke to them. We've had members come into our room and tell me they've been to parties like that. And they can't believe these people are so haughty, and they laugh at how stupid the American people are. Are we going to sit back and allow everyone in this country to be manipulated? Are we going to allow our brains to be brainwashed? Our water system to be polluted with fluoride? Our air to be destroyed with chemtrails? Because there's evidence they're using chemicals up in the air. These are conspiracy facts, by the way. You look up chemtrails, there's a whole series of scientific evidence showing that this is going on. They're going to lie to us, they're going to cheat and take our money and fleece every one of us. Even the system that we live by, the capitalist system, needs to be altered in some ways. And that's why we came up with Hybrid Capitalism, a book we wrote about a year and a half ago. Hybrid capitalism is a way we, the government, can get in on returns of investments, returns on investments. We need to start getting something out of our tax dollars. And there's all these ways we can save tax dollars in the process. And I urge everybody to tell your friends and family about a third party. Anyway, thank you very much. And do you have any last words for Conspiracy Monday?
No, thank you very much for watching, and happy conspiracy hunting.
Yes. Good luck.